How was your weeks? I mean, I know Asha's week has been incredibly busy, but
Yeah, how was everyone's week?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Well, I'm asking you, big shot.
Big shot.
My week was honestly really boring.
I mean,
I watched the King's Speech.
Whoa. Guys, literally, what did we do last weekend?
Oh, we had a little birthday party for Jordan last weekend. That was really nice.
Yeah, my girlfriend put it on, and she got all my friends to come down.
Surprised
me,
saw
yeah.
you.
I worked that day. I worked till 7, and then we had dinner at 8. I knew that much.
Yeah.
So when I got back,
and then we were there,
yeah.
And you're like, crap, I can't have fun anymore.
She was just like I just was not looking in the direction that she wanted me to look in, because like you guys were all hiding,
yeah.
And I didn't notice. So I was like, oh man, okay, I got to shower, and then we'll get out there. And then she was like leading me into the kitchen so I could like see everybody. I didn't know this, Jackson. You were hidden behind the curtains.
Your curtains, yeah.
And then
I thought it was pretty obvious, but you did not see me until I came up behind you and actually hugged you.
Yeah.
I was just around a corner, kind of tucked up to a wall,
making like the most sinister face I think I've ever seen.
Saw
you
Tom's normal face.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but
where's the air horn?
There was a moment where Jorbo just looked at me, and I had like this big smile on my face, didn't know what to say, and he had no reaction for like a good 2 seconds. It was the longest 2 seconds of my life, and then I just go, boo. And then he's like, oh my God. And then we all kind of jumped out at him.
It was like sheer, like, I think that was just like an evolutionary, like,
it was
defense mechanism. Yeah. It was fight or flight, and I froze. Just primal fear of the unknown was taking place then. And it was you.
I am the unknown.
I think the plan for like this weekend, because again she split it into 2 different things, because I guess there were enough people that like couldn't make one weekend or
Jordan
the other.
just has too many friends.
Crazy. I just got too many friends. I gotta like schedule everybody in. I could fit you in next June, perhaps.
You have your
put your application in now. But yeah, I think the plan was to go to karaoke this weekend. So yeah, gotta warm up my vocal cords, guys.
What's your go-to song? Give us a little snippet, Jordan.
I'm not. Well,
just us.
The classic
no one else
improv rule: no and. I will not be.
Cringy fact here: Jordan and I used to acapella for the longest time.
That's
back
true.
When we used to live together.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I'd take the deep parts. You take the...
For the longest time.
Like Pitch Perfect style acapella?
Yeah, kinda.
They do acapella in that.
You said doo-doo.
I did say doo. I mean, that was on his 6th chocolate milk, I think.
Speaking about chocolate milk, the King's Speech, guys.
Did you guys know the guy who invented the Segway died on the Segway?
Yeah, that was the bit from last episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, he fell off the Grand Canyon, bro.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon.
No, he's just avoiding some dog.
Yeah, okay, I got that wrong. But that's how I remember it.
The King's Speech, guys.
No, I picked this week. And my whole thing is I wanted to talk about Oscar bait movies. So I decided on, it might be a little controversial take, but I picked The King's Speech as my Oscar bait movie of choice for this one. Mainly because, as we all know, Oscar bait movies are those movies that are just kind of made to win awards.
I hadn't heard that phrase until you brought it up in the group chat.
Oh, really? It's pretty popular. It's a pretty popular genre of movies. Like Oppenheimer, for example, is an Oscar bait movie. And it basically...
I feel like that's really it's a very opinionated thing to claim a movie's Oscar bait, though.
I don't know. Because they all kind of follow this same formula of like this biopic releases at the very end of the year, right before award season. And
when did this movie come out?
Well, it was released in 2010. But you get a lot of these movies that are released like in the blocks right before the Academy Awards with like insane budgets, insane star-studded cast, like the most popular people of the era. Basically just to collect awards. And the reason I wanted to pick that is because they kind of come in at the last moment of the year, pick up all the awards, and then just kind of dissipate in the following years. Whether or not they're actually great movies.
Yeah, with the Oscar bait genre of movies, it's these series of movies that like they all sort of like fill in these requirements, not just for for your consideration.
Chris Pratt's got to be the main character.
Chris Pratt needs to play Garfield in it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they fill in these specific quotas, to be eligible to be nominated, and there's a lot of money that goes into that, but also the type of movie that goes through that process, because that costs the studios like quite a bit of money to push their film for awards. It's got to be a surefire hit, and so that's where you get like these character driven biopics, or like if it's set in Hollywood, if it's got like Meryl Streep or Tom Hanks in it, it's a shoo-in. They're more likely to be considered than like other movies. Holocaust adjacent.
It depends on like the era, right? So back in 2010, a huge hit was Royals and like the royal family, as well as especially the cast within this movie, which is like basically every Oscar-winning English actor you can name by just looking at them. But like these are some of the most popular actors of that era.
Mm-hmm.
And these kind of movies cast these kind of people, like these insane talents, to collect awards and kind of look good for the production studios at the end of the year, right? So I just thought it'd be interesting if we did a movie, review it and critique it, whether or not to determine if it was worth the time to watch and actually like is up to the standard that the Academy and everyone kind of holds it to. So I figured why not do something like The King's Speech, that is normally regarded amongst most people as a really, really good movie.
Yeah.
And kind of look at if it's as good as reviews and the Academy looks at it from like a common viewer perspective.
Well, why don't we go watch it one more time, and then you can try to convince me.
Yeah, I got you.
And everyone else. See, I like that movie because it informs me on the royal family, because really the only things I know about the royal family I learned from John Mulaney. So
What?
Does he have a bit about the royal family?
it's true.
Is he British?
He has. Have you ever seen Royal Watch with John Mulaney?
No.
No.
No, I missed that.
He was on like during COVID, I guess. This is probably like right before he went to rehab and stuff. Anyways, he was writing on Seth Meyers' show and he was like this surprise bit that he didn't know what was happening, and just John Mulaney came out in sunglasses and a trench coat.
Oh.
And it was called The Royal Watch, and it was just him talking about the royal family.
Oh, okay.
Plus just the frequent times he's brought up Princess Diana.
Yeah, I've never like watched that bit, but like I've seen the stills. Like I know that bit exists. I think it was in like a timeline video for pre versus post rehab celebrity drama. That'll be relevant for later in the discussion.
Anyways, one crappy joke later. Welcome back.
So what did we think? What did we think of The King's Speech, guys?
I loved it. I was laughing the whole time. Not in like a good way. It was funny. I enjoyed it. There was good humor in it.
Jackson was like, haha, British people aren't real. People don't actually talk like that.
Asha, what about you?
It was good. It was a nice movie. And I think his favorite daughter is Elizabeth.
Gee, what makes you say that?
That's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
Bro, you just spoiled the whole movie.
That's like nothing to the plot, but he picked her up first and always hugged her first. I was like, poor Margaret or whatever the other one's name is. See, I don't even know the other ones. Anywho, absolutely irrelevant to the plot, but it was okay. Yeah, it was good.
That was my first time seeing it. Was that your guys' first time seeing it?
Yeah, it was my first time.
It was the first time.
I think that's a first for this podcast. I think normally at least one of us has seen the movie.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not a one.
Jorbo, what did you think?
What did I think? I thought it was perfectly fine and perfectly serviceable. It makes sense that this would sweep the Oscars. I was just, I don't know, man. I was kind of bored. It was very, I found it very dry, and that's not like to discredit any of, on a technical level, everything's great. Colin Firth is great. All the actors are great. The set deck, the score, the cinematography. I like what they were doing with the sort of empty spaces in those, what's it called? An unbalanced frame? Is that?
Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
I like what they were doing with that. That's maybe like the one thing, that and the writing I felt was like pretty sharp, especially when it was Lionel and Bertie, training and talking. But other than that, this is not the kind of movie I would go for.
So why did you find it so dry? Like, what about it was dry? Because by the sounds of it, on a whole level, you enjoyed it. But like, what was the part of the movie that you really didn't vibe with? Like, what was the main thing?
Just the whole British thing. No,
The accents aren't real. I think they're faking it.
nobody talks like that. I've not heard one person talk like that. All right, that's a silly voice we do at parties, and that's it. Nah, I don't know. I think with regards to, well, it's about like the politics of the royal family, and that's not.
It's not your cup of tea.
Anything that is on my radar. I'm not. What would you call it? The John Mulaney.
John Mulaney.
Royal Watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not on Royal Watch. I'm not super interested in the royal family.
See, I thought it kind of had a good balance of. I definitely see what you're saying, but I kind of like just seeing friendship past like in the deeper kind of writing part of it. Like there was a good boy gets friend, boy loses friend, boy gets friend back kind of story that I enjoyed kind of watching.
It was your typical hero's journey, right? On the baseline, the movie's not necessarily any different than like an action movie in terms of how the plot moves. You know, like your character starts on a lower level, and then they go through some sort of mentorship or training, and they find themselves up higher in a better place than they started out, and then there's some kind of falling out action that leads them both on separate paths, and then
they come
the
together.
Final moment is they come back together and they accomplish what they never could have before,
and then they turn into cockroaches. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a really niche joke. Sorry.
So on an insanely basic level, the movie works because it follows the same formula that cinema's been following since the golden age.
If I could piggyback off that for a second.
Yeah, give her.
Just to elaborate on my point, just because it seems like I said I didn't like the movie because I don't really like the royal family. That's not it. That's not exclusively it. But to piggyback off of that, I felt that it was a very by the numbers kind of plot, you know?
Yeah.
To say that everything was like fine, you know, on a technical level is to say that everything was like middle of the road, you know, kind of like not bare minimum. That's not what I'm trying to say. They played it safe. It's a very safe story. It's a very safe progression. At no point was I like, you know, on the edge of my seat or shocked by whatever.
I don't know.
We were talking about the writing.
I found it underwhelming. I'll say why I found it underwhelming is because it's set in like the beginning of the Second World War. Like they could have given us more content about war, but all we got was a little video of Hitler.
Wait. It was so funny when we get to that scene too, because I was like, as soon as they start showing Hitler and they show Hitler speaking, I just started laughing because I was like, oh, watch. They're literally going to cut to him and he's going to be like sitting there going like, if I could talk like that, if I could talk like Hitler could talk. And then literally after I said it, it cut to it and I just started laughing. I was like, imagine in the script it just says, he looks at Hitler longingly. Like, I thought that was a really funny beat, but it was a good moment. It was just really funny that he's getting that moment from Hitler. But
see, the thing I get what you guys are saying, but I kind of have like an opposite perspective on it. I like that they contained it mostly to just his internal fears and like what was going on with the royal family, mainly because that just kind of emphasizes just how much of a problem this thing was for him. And like the main thing is too, like it's the leading up to the war as well, which the whole reason World War II kind of happened to begin with is the world was a bit lenient on what Hitler was doing up until the war basically began.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of radio broadcasts about what was going on in Europe throughout the movie here and there. And the world didn't really care because they had just come out of a world war and they were like, well, nothing big's going to happen.
That's not going to happen again.
And then it happened again. And that's kind of why I think the war aspect of it was a little thin until the moment he had to deliver his speech.
Yeah, I think, you know, to that point, it is sort of interesting to like have this like much bigger conflict going on in the background while you zero in on this one character. And then I think in that aspect, it does turn out to be relevant to the conflict of World War II starting, because he becomes king and he needs to inspire confidence in his people, and to do that he cannot stutter through his speeches. So the whole thing was for something,
And I like it because the whole movie. Well, first of all, it is a real, true story, and that's always kind of interesting when you're dealing with something like this on such a big scale. A lot of that plays into the fact that like the royal family has like insane amount of insane protocols to publicly look perfect, essentially. Like they, even to this day, they have a very hard time looking imperfect out in public, and even more so back in the 30s and 40s when it really did matter in terms of like the public persona and like wartime. So the fact that he had so much pressure to appear perfect and like have no problems when in the public eye, especially as king, is just on its own in a real life situation that's actually very interesting. So the fact that they adapted that into a movie, despite being such a small scale conflict when it comes to the screen, just the drama of understanding how particular the royal family was while going through this journey with a guy who normally would never be seen with a common man or common woman outside of, like a photo op is
right. Yeah.
It was lovely. Like I really enjoyed it.
It was such a cute little bromance.
But without much of that like background context of like understanding what royal people are kind of actually like, I can see how certain things could get lost on other people that either don't know, don't care.
Don't listen to John Mulaney.
We're just running with that bit.
I got like 3 jokes today.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I would assume that a deeper understanding of the workings of the royal family might elevate the text of this a bit for someone. But even just like having the basis knowledge, I still think it works.
Absolutely.
It's
that
still
kind of goes into the idea of like it's just on its own a cookie cutter hero's journey movie that it works no matter who or what is watching. But the context of the situation kind of elevates it a little bit. But I think what I really want to discuss with you guys is it best picture at the Academy Awards worthy? Is it best acting at the Academy Awards worthy? Is it best writing at the Academy Awards? And best directing at the Academy Awards worthy? Is this movie truly earning those accolades amongst some of the other really good films that came out that year? I'll pull up a list.
Well, of course it was. It was designed in a test tube to be worthy of that.
Like one of the things that like I like compare it to, we looked at Madame Web, which we all agree was not a good movie. One of the things we really did discuss and critique was, well, looking at the characters, they're really thin characters. They're very stereotypical, but like not even cookie cutter because they were just the vaguest, lamest characters. But with this one, I really did like the characters and they were unique. And there was a lot of good building. Like in the scenes with a lot of dialogue, there was a lot of really good building. And I like being able to see their individual personalities and how they interacted with one another. And there was a lot of really good moments in there where we got that, compared to Madame Web, where it was just like one line of dialogue here that suggested that they liked math and that their t-shirt made a math joke.
Yeah.
And that they were smart, right? Where I think with the pacing, like this is a very slow-paced movie in the writing and the action, and I don't know, I think looking at from that aspect, which it did win original screenplay. I think from a writing standpoint, my opinion is that despite being, yes, a very hero's journey boy, well, boy gets friend and a voice, boy loses friend and a voice, boy gets friend and a voice back. Being very stereotypical, it did a good job of that, and it had good characters, good relationships, good character building and emotion that I think it was strong.
Hey listener, if you like this podcast and you haven't followed yet, we'd really appreciate it.
If you really like this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcast. Each follow and review really helps bring our show to new listeners. You can also subscribe to our Patreon to get extended ad-free episodes and bonus episodes too. Visit patreon.com/Vanish Entertainment.
Now back to the episode.
It also kind of felt like a play. Did any of you else get that? Especially with like lots of the wide shots and stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's English. It's English, and a lot of plays are mostly revolving, at least the ones that I've been in and seen, are like all English upper class stories with the very posh accent, and there could be some history with the director and whatnot as well behind the movie that is a bit more play-like.
I think there is some. I was trying to read some on the birth of this movie, and I got so bored reading the article I was reading.
It kind of works because in the movie itself, King George V says to Bertie that with the invention of radio and wireless, the royals no longer have to just appear to battle and not fall off their horse. They become actors. So they have to start putting on performances, which I think the blocking and the filming really plays into, because they have to put on an act, they have to walk specifically, they have to talk specifically. So I think the movie makers shot it specifically that way to make it feel like they're always putting on a performance.
Right.
Plays are very famous for walk here, say your line, walk here, say your line, exit stage. And that's kind of how these royals act, right? When they're not in their own home and in their own space. I found a lot of the other moments where they're more confined to themselves in their own homes, the camera is less staged and their movements are less robotic. Obviously because they don't have to put on that act anymore. But when the public is around, I definitely see what you're saying. I'm looking through a list of movies that came out in 2010.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. These are like some heavy hitters that it was going up against.
Especially Black Swan. 127 hours.
Social Network.
The Social Network lost to this. Like that's like one of my favorite movies.
It's great, but always my question right now is, out of all the competition, does it make sense that movies like these sweep at the Oscars? Best original screenplay over Black Swan is like confusing to me, right? Inception, for example, there's tons and tons of decent and Oscar-worthy films that came out in the same year. But this movie that was released, a couple months before the awards, with the entire BBC cast, an insanely
cast of wizards and secret spies, and
the whole discussion is like, Oscar baits, are they worth it? Like, are they up to the way that the world sees them, or are they not? Like, I think I really enjoyed this movie just as a casual viewer and as like a reviewer, but my notes here are very limited. Like I barely have any technical notes, because I found that the way they shot this movie was so naturalistic. It didn't do anything too...
I think there was some pretty cool stuff they did do with the cinematography.
Absolutely, but compare that with Inception, for example.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not really like pushing the medium.
No, they're not necessarily going out of their way to be innovative or anything. Like, they were doing a lot with wide angles, and they were doing a lot of interesting things with Steadicam and movement, but it was nothing really out of the norm for what you'd see even on some lower budget stuff.
I'm not saying up to par with, like, I'm not comparing to Inception and stuff like that, but I think there is a lot of things that they did do very differently intentionally with the cinematography of it.
Yeah.
If I can differ your point.
I do agree with you. Like, they definitely put a lot of consideration into making it different, but mainly because their writing and their actual plot is so kind of conflictless. A lot of it's internal, that they had to do it interestingly visual, because otherwise it would have just been a very dry, especially feeling like a stage play kind of movie. But the dialogue as well was, it was good, and the wit and charm of it was probably my highlight of the movie. But it wasn't the performances weren't the best I've ever seen in my life, right?
They were serviceable.
They were very good. I'm not even going to deny the fact that they were good. It's just they weren't some of the best I've ever seen. Colin Firth was great. Jeffrey Rush was playing an Australian and had an English accent, which I don't know if that's kind of accurate or what, but it definitely wasn't an Australian accent.
I thought he was Australian.
He is. He's playing an Australian person, but Jeffrey Rush is an English actor.
No, I'm pretty sure he's Australian.
Yeah, they mentioned he's are you talking about the actor that plays him?
The actor.
He's playing in Australia.
Yeah, he's Australian. He is Australian.
Huh. Regardless, he was doing an English accent, which again, I don't know if that's accurate to if he would have had an English accent or not, but I
kind of think it was Australian, because also in the scene when he's auditioning, because they tell that he's Australian by his voice. They make a point of that in the audition scene.
Yeah, and this just kind of feeds into it. You cannot hear the difference between his English and Australian accent. It doesn't.
Yeah, that part was a little confusing to me. It's
it's not. Well, just listen to any Australian and then listen to his performance in this movie. It's not at all close.
Maybe it's because when, for me personally, when I think of Australian, I think of the Big Les show, that rural, outback Australians, oi sassy, like that.
Yeah, I think of Margot Robbie right now, because she's got a very mild Australian accent. But even though it's mild, it's still a world different from your traditional English.
No, they show you immediately right before you meet him. They show the Australian thing, which I thought was a pretty good little sneak.
The Australian thing?
Yeah, what do you mean the Australian?
Tell us more.
Yeah, Asha, the famous Australian
right when you walked in, right when she walks into the office, she looks over and he has that little thing of Australia.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I missed that.
You were cooking dinner when.
It's a good movie, but to sweep at the Oscars and to have such high critical acclaim, it's just I wanted to talk about it, get people's opinions.
Yeah, especially for the best actor. I'm surprised about that. Not because the acting was bad. It was good, but it's just a limited script. There's not too many emotions. And I didn't see any of the rest of the movies that were in that year, so I have no idea. But I would have thought that best actor would be a more extravagant performance, perhaps.
I feel like in this conversation about Oscar bait, we're questioning the movies more so than the system itself, the Oscars. It's a bunch of industry people, high up, prestige industry people getting together, deciding that these movies are the best, and then we all just sort of, because it is the biggest award show for films. There's bias here. There's a great deal of bias, and it's all political. So to be is this worthy of the Oscars? Maybe isn't the right question. Maybe we should be questioning if the Oscars is worthy of deciding what the best movies are.
That's kind of why I wanted to bring this up, right? Is the Oscars, obviously a lot of people in the general audience look to determine what a good movie is, right?
And I was listening to one thing where the editor was talking about the movie, and he was kind of saying with a movie in general, there's movies where, everyone on set is wow, this movie's going to be so great. And then it bombs. Where he was kind of saying this movie felt no one was really expecting it to be great. And then he was saying from his self, he was shocked to see the recognition it did get. And I thought that was quite interesting.
I'm surprised it did so well at the Oscars. I was just thinking back, because I wrote a paper about this a couple days ago, but it was on a 2015 movie. I don't know when Me Too blew up, but at that point, all of the Oscar movies were strong female leads, but this was 2010. I think Me Too was in 2009, so I'm kind of surprised. Although, to be fair, that girly pop, his wifey, is a strong female.
Yeah, I think she was nominated for supporting actress.
I thought that was within the last 5, 6 years.
Well, it started, but it really boomed in
2006, sorry.
Gotta brush up on my history then.
Helena Bonham Carter was not nominated.
I'm fairly certain she was because I wrote her name down. In
Sorry, I was looking at the old one.
It is weird to see her look so normal. I'm used to her playing wacky, off-the-walls, hot topic characters.
I said Asha is foreshadowing of Dumbledore dying.
Because he died in real life, guys.
And in the movie.
Womp womp.
Died in this, he died in Harry Potter.
He died in real life.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of wild how many English actors do everything English. like the amount of Harry Potter actors in this movie is kind of hilarious. And Sweeney Todd has basically this entire cast as well. So it's kind of, I don't know, I enjoy it. Like they're all...
I would have loved to see Sacha Baron Cohen pop up in this.
I would have loved to see Alan Rickman pop up in this as well.
All right.
Remember when he says "my wife"? That was pretty cool.
That's one of my favorite movies.
All right.
Oh my gosh, can we do a mixed review on Borat?
On Borat?
Yes, I'd be down.
That'd be good.
And we could do mockumentaries.
I've never seen Borat.
What? You need to. It's
Oh, you're in for a treat, bucko.
Yeah.
Well, next time on Mixed Reviews.
The problem is I know too many people who do the Borat impression that I'm just already over.
Jackson loves to do it.
When we watched it together, Asha banned me from doing it before the movie started.
Yeah, because the movie didn't even start and you were doing it. I was like...
Like, that doesn't... It's not funny to me anymore, and I haven't even seen the movie.
It'll be funny when you watch it.
I think it'll be funny once you watch the movie.
It's good. And you're like...
Knowing you, Tom, you'll start doing it after you watch the movie.
I was going to say, you're also very not politically correct, so I feel like you'll especially enjoy this movie.
Oh my god, Tom's canceled, everybody. Part 2. You thought this was about the King's speech? No, we're still trying to cancel Tom.
That's going to be my mission.
Alrighty.
All right,
Well, good night, guys.
yeah, thanks for having this chat with me.
Hey there, I'm Jackson's mom, and this has been Mixed Reviews with Tom McMahon, Jackson Brotherton, Jordan Vairo, and Asha Joseph. This episode was mixed, mastered, and edited by TheOldManDave. Be sure to follow our podcast on your favorite podcast app and join our Patreon for extended, ad-free, and bonus episodes. The link is in the show notes. This has been a Vanish Entertainment production. Thank you for listening.